Headline from CBS Sports is Garrett Podell. Christian McCaffrey thrilled to be mastering Kyle Shanahan's 49ers offense. And that should terrify defenses. Maybe you think it's the Eagles. Maybe you think it's the Niners or another team. Maybe it's the Lions that got your attention right now. Maybe you're like Broadus over here, talking about the Commanders right and left.
Have I talked about the Commanders more or the Lions more? Did I pick the Lions to win a playoff game?
Yes, you did. You've talked more about the Lions. You definitely have a man crush on what they've got going on. And I don't blame you because that offensive line is mighty sexy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions make some noise, maybe even make it farther than the Cowboys. Maybe win their first playoff game since the 90s.
Cowboys might have to go to Detroit playoff game first round.
That would be unfortunate. The premise of this story is that after being traded midseason last year, Christian McCaffrey didn't get to learn the timing of the offense, and he made the biggest impact of any player that was traded for. And after the trade, the Niners went from second highest, went to the second highest scoring attack in the league at 31 points per game, as well as the most efficient passing game in the NFL. 114 passer rating in the 12 games that they played. They went 11-1, I think, after acquiring McCaffrey, and then lost in the playoffs. But yeah, they did reel off 11 straight wins before they got banged up against Philadelphia. And before that, they were between 10th and 20th in most statistical categories. So a very average offense became very elite with Christian McCaffrey. He didn't even know the offense. The only player in the NFL that had more yards per touch than McCaffrey during that run was Tony Pollard, okay? Which goes to show you how important his injury was. I keep telling some of the doubters, if Steele and Pollard stay healthy, maybe you beat the 49ers that day. Maybe you could have actually had another scoring drive there in that second half and got to 19 or 20 points. McCaffrey, though, maintained that near league-leading figure despite 47 more touches than Pollard, 201 to 154 from week 8 to the end of the season. And McCaffrey's 201 touches in that run were the third most in the NFL, while Pollard's workload ranked tied for 20th. So a Tony Pollard type of impact, but Christian McCaffrey can sustain it with much more touches so far in a game and has been doing so now for a half decade. So, it's rare, I think, it'd be interesting if Chiafalo was here, he's out today, what he would say about McCaffrey. But there's no doubt, each individual running back's value is lesser than it's ever been relative to their peers in the NFL. But there are still a couple that can absolutely change the game. Derrick Henry being one, Christian McCaffrey being one, Tony Pollard, and maybe Saquon Barkley. Guy's just a freak, though. And his dad being a wide receiver allowed him to develop skills out of the backfield, I think, more than your average player. But still, Christian McCaffrey's routes do not compare to those of a wide receiver. It's his ability to draw attention and create space all over the field because we have to know where this dude is. And then he gets you 5.7 yards every time he touches the ball. But, there's a lot going on here. The truckwreck.com fan text at 877-881-1053. The final branch in the topic tree, McCaffrey talking about joining the 49ers and the coaching that he's gotten there. And, Brian, we can only hope that McCarthy's going to give the Cowboys some sort of a similar edge. We know Kellen did not. And hopefully Mike was just laying out on him because that's what Jerry wanted. Or maybe he tried to help Kellen more, but the kid, didn't want help. But here's McCaffrey. He says, I feel like a football nerd every time I'm in these meetings, really grasping exactly how well the head coach understands not just how to run the play offensively, but defensively, and why setting the edge is so important, why running the ball is so important. So you start to understand what defenses are being taught and what the play is trying to accomplish. And so every step matters. It's not just running the ball and looking with your eyes. There's an aiming point. There's vision that comes with it. There's selling your blocks. There's so many different cues that are on each and every run play, and some of them are a little bit different than others. So it's just been great to be able to not just learn, but rep exactly all the different plays that we are trying to get, and then having the different pass plays off of that. Reading this article, you get a better appreciation for Christian McCaffrey. Maybe you get a better appreciation for what the 49ers are capable of. And one of my thoughts was, wow, there's your 800-pound gorilla in the NFC. We shouldn't be talking about this conference like it's so down and it's a golden opportunity. The Cowboys are going to have to be awesome in the playoffs to beat this team. With Hargrave and McCaffrey, they might have run the table and won the Super Bowl 14 straight games. after acquiring McCaffrey, or I guess that would have been 13 a straight game. But then the other thing is, can Mike McCarthy give us some of that Kyle Shanahan gold that McCaffrey was talking about there in that final quote that none of his previous coaches have given him? That's what Shanahan is doing for the 49ers. One good offensive lineman, 4 other guys just getting by. Why? It's because the scheme and the coaching and the teaching is better, and it keeps defenses guessing and off balance in a way that now all of a sudden McCaffrey has all this space and Deebo Samuel has all this space, and we're dominating with mediocre quarterbacks. That's the edge we need McCarthy to give us, Brian.
Yeah, that's my hope is that while Brian Schottenheimer was on the defensive side of the ball, breaking people down, one of the responsibilities was he broke down the 49ers, and you hope that as a coach, and he competed against the 49ers when he was in Seattle, and so he would know that situation. I just feel like, though, there's so many things that you could do. We've seen it with McCaffrey. The fact the guy had 85 receptions this year, think about that. He 244 touches running the football and another 85 catching the football. There's your 300 touches, but you almost averaging 4.7 a carry, but almost nine yards a reception. That's the thing. I just want to see what we've seen on the defensive side of the ball with how they use Dan Quinn uses his personnel. I just want to see Tony Pollard and others have that same kind of opportunity. There are creative plays that you can do to get Pollard involved, throwing him the football.
And you want CeeDee Lamb force-fed as well.
Exactly. Yeah, but I'm saying, that's, to me, I'm all about more creativity, and with my eyes, I've seen some creativity.
Yep.
That when they were down in the red zone,
fighting a little bit of a sneeze here. No, a cough from Broadus.
When they were down in the red zone,
that's weed. That's weed.
I wish. When they were down in the red zone, they went 5 for 5 and didn't run the ball one time. They're down there 2-point play, don't run the ball, but everything about it was movement, picks, separation, protection.
Yeah.
Those are the things that give me hope.
Because you don't know where the star player is going in that situation. You could take away Lamb and Pollard because you knew where they were going to be most of the time.
That's when the static offense is not
good. He threw the first play that McCarthy, Schottenheimer, the first play out of that 2-point play, what did they do? They ran a pick. They ran a pick with Cooks and then delay with Ferguson and the flat. Nobody covers him. And you're like going, oh, okay, that's kind of neat. But it wasn't like a trick 'em kind of a thing. It was a well-designed play. And we've seen some routes and stuff like that, some combinations with outs and slants and things like that have kind of created separation for these receivers. And I'm all about that. The bunch formations, making guys have to declare who they're going to take. And then all of a sudden, if they don't make the right decision, you have guys running wide open.
Yeah.
Are you coming around on McCarthy a little bit in this offense? McCarthy and Schottenheimer.
I'm coming around to, I think there's going to be some creativity here with the offense. Yes.
Well,
just from what and again, it's only 10 days of practice. I'd give anything to be out there the full time, and then we'll get to see all these preseason games. I don't know how much they're going to show of that, of the bunch formations and things like that. I think they'll probably play you pretty vanilla. But from what I saw with some of the pre-practice stuff and plays they're going through, I kind of feel like there is going to be a different look from what we've seen in the past.
Right, because what Kyle Shanahan and the best offensive minds in the sport, McDaniels included with the Dolphins, what he was able to do last year, getting Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to be 2 of the top 7 receivers in football, both 1,000-yard guys. McVay with the Rams. Offensively, they're doing more with less. You haven't seen a Cowboys staff do that since when? Norv Turner? And they had great teams in the 90s. I don't remember. We've talked about that and praised that with Dan Quinn. We haven't been able to do that with the offensive staff in recent memory. maybe this is finally a year where they can mask some of the deficiencies with an offensive line that's not that good. San Francisco, same thing. They got Trent Williams. Nobody can name the rest of their 4 guys. It's not like San Francisco's got a juggernaut offensive line. Their defense is a juggernaut.
They let their second best offensive lineman go.
McGlinchey, he's with Chicago. But the defense is what scares me in San Francisco.
I think the Cowboys offense, statistically, it hasn't been a bad offense. Am I right about, again?
No, statistically, the Cowboys
statistically,
have been a good
it hasn't been. I mean, I think
they've just fallen apart and crumbled in the most important moments against good defenses.
I know the last 2 years, first in scoring, fourth in scoring.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think that, but we're asking though is like, okay, what's the adjustment to keep from getting shut down?
Yes.
That's what it's like. Okay, Brian, it's a great paper, and when you watch it, it looks great. The numbers are great. But then when it comes to crunch time, are you able to overcome somebody's front or somebody's secondary? Can you create, and that's the thing I think Kellen Moore lacked. Maybe he lacked the experience of like, okay, that's when you play Belichick. You have to be worried about Belichick. He's going to show you something in the first half, and then the second half, he's going to run a completely different defense. Mm-hmm. Because if you're shutting him down on something, he's like, okay, we got to flip this and do something different.
There's an adaptability that you must have because everybody is studying what you do in real time and coming up with solutions. And if your answer, which has been the majority of Dak's career and all of Tony's career, is just to beat the man in front of you, then you're leaving a huge opportunity out there. And, we see it in college all the time. We see it in high school all the time where teams know we're going up against somebody who's bigger or stronger, so we're going to scheme ways to get our best players open.
Yeah.
And now, for me, it's not only a reminder of everything the Niners did here going over this article, but it's through Christian McCaffrey's eyes, one of the top offensive players that football has ever seen, a freak. And he's noticing, he's explaining to the rest of the NFL with these quotes what Shanahan can do, and maybe McVay is doing and Andy Reid is doing. And I don't know how many other coaches are doing it. You're hoping Mike McCarthy does it, but that's not his history. We haven't seen the run game enough in training camp to really be able to evaluate what Brian Schottenheimer and Mike McCarthy have agreed on along with Solari on how this running game is going to go.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed they're executing it as well, and they have an idea like Shanahan has in San Francisco. I don't know. When Mike was in charge of Green Bay, it was highly static. He wanted Aaron Rodgers to change. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers told him no. So we don't have like the sample size in the regular season. Like I think of Mike McCarthy as a pretty old school offensive coach. But if he can change, then I think you'll have an opportunity to maybe get the best of San Francisco in the playoffs this time around. But you're talking about a team that had you outmatched, adding the best offensive player, doing it with Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback. And I think that coaching edge, it must be mitigated one way or another, or you're in for, a similar type of experience. Now, can the Eagles be there as well? I think absolutely. Yeah. If you're ranking NFC teams, to me, it's the Niners, and then it's the Eagles and the Cowboys tied. I don't know how big of a gap there is from one and then tied with 2 and 3. I think if the 49ers stay healthy last year in the NFC title game, maybe they figure out a way to beat the Eagles. And it would be clear right now that San Francisco is the better team.